Aloha, and welcome to another edition of A Better Day. I'm State Senator Sam Slom, and I hope you'll join me for the next half hour. We'll talk a little bit about some of the current events in Hawaii legislatively from the viewpoint of the Senate minority. We have a very special guest. We'll talk about construction in Hawaii and some of the alternatives and some of the options. And as always, I remind you the reason we call this A Better Day. You know that some people in our community talk about a new day or new beginnings or something to that effect. We think that we deserve a better day, and that's what we want. I mean, every day you wake up, it's a new day. But we want to try to make Hawaii better. We want to make it a better place for you to work and live and to be educated. So that's the whole focus of our program. Well, the legislature is finally over. The governor's got a couple more days to dispatch the last of the approximately 250 bills that had passed during the 2014 legislative session, and there were some controversial bills. You may recall that a couple of weeks ago there was a press conference held by the governor, the attorney general, and the budget director. It had to do with discrepancies in the state budget and the state bond authorization bill. Now, they're two different measures, and they have different impacts on what happens. But what did happen was this. The legislature passes the bond authorization bill every year. And what that simply does is authorize an amount that can be borrowed against the state bond debt limit. And this is very important because it gives the legislature the power to determine what finally is going to take place with the executive budget. The budget was passed afterwards, and as it turned out, the budget was over the limit, over the debt limit, was not in sync with the bond authorization bill. And so what the governor had to do was to line item veto about $45 million worth of projected expenditures in the Department of Education. People don't understand this process, and that's really a problem. There's not as much discussion on these issues as there should be, and there's always unintended consequences. That's why I voted for the budget bill, or for the bond authorization bill, but I spoke and voted against the budget bill, saying at the time that it was unconstitutional, that we had not met certain requirements, and that we should take a look at it. And you may recall, at the end of the 2014 session, it was pretty wild. We had the infusion of the Turtle Bay bill legislation, and I defy you to ask your legislator to explain to you how that bill is going to be financed. And then you had the debacle with the Senate Education Chair, who was in conference committee when the final bills were being voted on, and we had to have an exemption to our rules to allow some of those bills to be voted on 2 days after the deadline. So it was kind of wild and crazy, but the bottom line is this. We knew that there was a discrepancy. The state budget director had brought this to our attention. I mentioned it on the Senate floor, and yet we went ahead and we voted for it. That's haphazard. That's haste makes waste. We shouldn't allow that. And unfortunately, we see that in too many of our activities in state government, where we make mistakes or there are outright errors and there's no consequences for it. We see it in the Office of Elections. We see it at the University of Hawaii. We've seen it in Department of Taxation and other areas. So your job is to hold our feet to the fire and to get more involved. And I know a lot of you are your eyes glass over, especially when we talk about finances and budgets. But look, it's your money. The big secret is we don't have any money down here. The only money we've got is money we take away from you. So you better become more informed. And if you think that your vote doesn't count, if you think that you can't make a difference, well, that's all true. If you don't vote and you don't try to make a difference or get engaged, because then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. 2014 is a big election year. A lot of people running for office, a lot of offices that are up. It's important for you to get involved, not only just to vote, but when somebody comes knocking on your door or they send you 12 mailers asking for money, you call them up, you talk to them, and you ask them about the things, the issues that are important to you, and get an answer from them. Get them on record as saying what they will do, not just what high school they graduated from or who they're dating or married to. That's the Hawaii way, I know. But we need to be more engaged, and there are certain things that you can do. We do have limitations, as I've pointed out before. We're the only state in the union that has none of the above: initiative, referendum, recall, or term limits. We can change that if you change some of the people that here in elective office. So it's a big responsibility, but I want to let you know, don't be frustrated. Don't back out of these things. You can make a difference, and you can make a change. A couple things that are left over from the last couple of weeks here at the legislature. The Hawaii Health Connector continues to be a financial black hole. It's not going in the right direction. It has not signed up enough people. They're now going to jettison the small business portion of the Health Connector. All it's done is added more bureaucracy and more cost. I know. You had a president that said you can keep your policy, you can keep your present medical doctor, and you can have lower premiums. Wrong, wrong, and wrong. Now what the legislature wants to do is take this failing Health Connector and to put it on life support with more of your state funds after it went through $204 million of federal funds. It's time for you to let your lawmakers know what you want to do. If you want to go along with this scheme, fine. If you want better health care, though, you don't want the Hawaii Health Connector. You want to go back to the Prepaid Health Care Act, and you want the private market to be involved so that you can deal directly with a competitive source of insurance, not government insurance. And you know, if you really want to take a look at what the future of Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act would be if it continues, all you've got to look at is the tragedy of the Veterans Administration and veterans treatment, because there's your single-payer government insurance, and this is what's happened. We found out that thousands upon thousands of veterans were not getting care. Not only not getting care, they couldn't even get in to see a doctor. And while we were bragging in Hawaii about how good we are, then it came out by an independent audit by the Veterans Administration that guess what? We're worst in the nation. Worst in the nation. On average, it takes 145 days for a veteran to make the first primary care appointment in this socialized government medicine. Our congressional delegation, well, to say it simply, they were lied to by local officials who said, hey, don't worry, everything is fine. And then the audit came out. I know Congressional Representative Tulsi Gabbard was outspoken. She's a veteran. She understands these things. To me, and I think to many of you, it is a travesty and it's a shame how we treat or mistreat our veterans. And then when we have people on welfare, we have illegal aliens, we have convicted criminals on death row, they all go to the front of the line for health care and for benefits, but we don't keep our commitment and our promise to our servicemen and women. We've got to change things like that, but you've got the power to do that, and that's the message that I always try to get across from you. That's why I say we'll have a better day. Well, a lot of other things happen too. It was an interesting case in California that's going to have major implications during the summer, and you may have read about it, may have heard about it, maybe not. And that was a court case where the California Appeals Court affirmed a lower decision that said that teachers' unions and the teachers' bureaucracy cannot, in fact, use liberal and lavish tenure, that it was a violation of the rights of the children. Hey, what a concept. We're looking at the children and maybe even the parents. Tenure in California means that anybody that's hired by their Department of Education after 18 months automatically is granted tenure. And when they have bad teachers, and oh yes, there are bad teachers, just like there are bad politicians and bad policemen occasionally, when they had a bad teacher, they found it took up to 10 years and a cost of up to $450,000 to get rid of that person because of tenure. Well, the union, of course, has appealed that decision, but it's got nationwide ramifications and in Hawaii as well. If we want to improve education, we've got to hold people accountable and responsible. So those are some of the things that we're looking at. Main thing is it's going to be a busy summer. We're out of session now. We don't go back into regular session until January, but we still have things to do. We meet with constituents. We have informational briefings. And in the Senate, we still have our investigative committee going on, investigating the problems at Hawaii's State Hospital in Kaneohe. So many things that you can get involved in. If you need any information, please call my office or your particular legislator's office and ask them, hey, what's going on? Or go to your neighborhood board, go to town hall meetings. Okay? Well, look, one of the big things that we're concerned about in our community is construction. And for quite some time now, a lot of people have been sitting on the bench and there's been a lack of activity. Now there's activity, because of government projects, because of the rail, the train to nowhere on Oahu, and because of all of the activity, both wanted and not so wanted, in Kaka'ako. So I thought maybe the best person that we could talk to today, and a knowledgeable person, somebody you don't hear from as much as you should, is Mr. Jonathan Young, who is the president and CEO of the Associated Builders and Contractors, ABC. Jonathan, welcome to A Better Day.
How are you, Sam?
Nice seeing you again.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about ABC, the Merit Shop, and why it's important to us in Hawaii?
Okay, well, ABC was founded in Hawaii 25 years ago. We're actually celebrating our 25-year anniversary this year. We had a big party a couple weeks ago at the Doraku restaurant. Invited 150 of our members. They had a great time. They've been in business since the 1950s, Associated Builders and Contractors in D.C. Started by a group of 7 people who said there's got to be a better way than have everything go union. We represent the merit shops. Everyone thinks the construction industry is run by the unions.
Well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Particularly in Hawaii.
Well, 2/3 of the contractors are merit shop.
See, people don't know that.
Yes,
don't
everybody
realize
thinks
that.
2/3 of the contractors
Would
are
be
unions.
unionized,
Yes,
yeah.
no, they are not. 2/3, and this is done by an independent research company. 67.2% of the companies licensed contractors in the state are merit shop. Those are the people that hire people, small businesses that hire people, put them on their payroll, not outsource their labor and call up the hall and say, hey, I need some laborers to do a job.
Yeah.
These people make them part of their family, help them to grow, to become future business owners. They put them through the apprenticeship programs that we provide: carpentry, plumbing, painting, electrical, and roofing. We've put that program on to help them so that they can perpetuate the trade. That's our big process.
So education and training,
Yes.
that's primary focus.
Correct. We try to teach the proper way through a National Center of Construction Education and Research, and they allow us to use their books and their curriculum to teach the trades. It ranges anywhere from 3 years to 5 years, and it's a licensed trade for electricians and plumbers. ABC also does advocacy, and we deal with you, and we deal with the legislature, and we try to keep bills fair. And the funny part is most bills are not fair. They're skewed towards the other side. And you talk about the construction industry in Kaka'ako, that's all done by unions. And there's one reason why it's done by unions. You might remember the Walgreens, where everybody was standing in front with the signs, unfair, unfair. That's called bannering. It's also called something I can't say on the air, but it begins with an E, and it's a way of trying to put pressure on businesses to say, hey, if you don't give the work to the unions, we're going to stand in front here and just, annoy you.
And they do.
And they do.
Yeah.
And everybody's happy to do that. But the problem is they say unfair wages. They can make any claims they want because they're just standing there. It's called an informational picket. Okay, it's just standing there. It's called bannering information. What they do is they'll stand there and say, hey, you guys are unfair to us. Don't go in there. Has that ever stopped you from going into Walgreens or Walmart?
No, hasn't stopped me, but
Correct.
I'm sure it has stopped other people.
Yeah, certain people will not go.
Right.
The funny part is do you see the signs anymore?
Nope.
You know why? Because the new Keamoku Walgreens is going up. They didn't want any more pressure, any more people standing there in front of their buildings and saying, unfair wages and doesn't pay the local scale. What local scale? So they had to bow down, and we call it the E word again, and be extorted. I'm sorry, I said it slipped out.
Well, this is free speech.
Right.
You can have your free speech here.
Right,
Well,
so
in fact, that's what they argue too.
Yeah.
That standing in front of a store, they're just giving their opinion and all that stuff, saying don't go here. They're rotten people and all that. Yeah.
Right. So they backed off because they allowed them to build that project.
Yeah.
So who ends up paying for that?
We do.
We do. We don't care. The consumer. They'll just pass the cost on to the consumer. I mean, Kaka'ako is the exact same way. Howard Hughes didn't want to get picketed. Hyatt doesn't want to allow merit shops to do their work because Hyatt doesn't want to be picketed.
Yeah.
Marriott's the same way. They're all the same way that they don't want to be picketed. Kamehameha Schools does the same thing. They don't want that merit shops there. They want peace and quiet, tranquility. The problem is if you read about in the paper that we have no workers. That's what you've heard. There's no workers for the construction industry.
Right.
Well, the construction industry is going to create 5,000 jobs just in the Kaka'ako area. That's what the paper said. We know there's 5,000 jobs. That's not 5,000 people. That's 300 people going from one high rise to the next, to the next, continuing down. So the same 300 are going to be doing the same projects. The other people still sitting on the bench will never get into those projects. Same with the rail.
Well, the rail was an excellent example. They were talking about the 10,000 jobs and all of that. Where are they?
And you remember, I believe you were against it.
I was one of the plaintiffs,
yeah.
that's right, sure.
When we had the, what was it called? Local jobs for local people.
I sure remember, yeah.
And the big thing about the stadium, where they had the commercials being run.
About the painting and all that.
Yes. Do you know why that person there was from Kentucky?
No, why?
Because the state required a certain type of coating to go onto the stadium, a rust bucket.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't rust anymore.
Right.
No one in the state was certified to do that. So they brought in a person from Kentucky to do the job.
Who was certified.
Who was certified
Yeah.
to oversee the people doing it. That's it. Everything else was local.
Well, it's kind of like even the rail. I mean, the jobs that have come up, those are specialized jobs on rail projects. Since we've never done a rail project here, those jobs were brought in from the mainland as well.
Yep.
So we do that all the time, and it is propaganda, this, local jobs for local people and all that stuff. It sounds good. At the legislature, we've passed laws to that effect. I remember voting against them because they are discriminatory for one thing. They don't work for another thing, and we always pay the highest prices for that. Right?
And they don't care. They just pass the price on to the consumer.
So ABC it's a private membership organization?
No, we are.
No?
Believe it or not, we're the only association in the federation that allows unions to join our membership.
Do you have unions that
Yes,
join?
as a matter of fact,
So
we have 4.
the unions can join your organization, but you can't get involved with the
Correct.
unions, right? So
Correct.
it's a one-way street. Well, before we go any further, why don't you give us a little bit of Jonathan Young 101. What are your street creds? Where do you come from?
Actually, I grew up right up the street, 720 White Camilo Street, from where our office is on Dillingham, White Camilo, right on the corner of Bob's, McDonald's, and Midas. So we're the gray building with the blue, the old New York Tech building.
Yeah.
I grew up right up the street from there, the three-story one, White Camilo. Lived everywhere in Kalihi, and I'm from here, born and raised here. Went to St. Louis High School on a scholarship because I was too poor to go, and just the only way I could get in. And
Did you play football?
Nope.
You didn't go. You went to St. Louis and you didn't play football?
Nope.
What's the matter with you, John?
Actually, we were one of 2 state championships that year. One was baseball in 1974, as you remember.
Yeah, they just
and the
won again.
second was bowling.
Oh, bowling? Is that
Bowling?
right? I didn't even know they had a bowling
Yeah.
team. And one of my sons went there.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you're a local boy, grew up in Kalihi. So how come you're not a union guy?
I've never been. Long, short story is I worked for Hawaiian Tel back in the 80s for 2 years.
Yeah.
1 year at TSPS, which was the old dial 0 and you get an operator. That was us.
Remember those, yeah.
Yep. And I couldn't take it anymore because it was just crazy, so I went down to the print shop. And we had the nice big Xerox machine that you could load paper in while one tray is going, you load the other tray, and doing job nonstop, a copy a minute. And I get told by the shop steward, hey, slow down because you're working too fast. I go, I'm putting paper in the machine. Yeah, let it run out totally, and then go do something else, and then come back about 5 minutes later. I'm like, but I'm just doing my job. No, but you're making everybody else look bad. So, I've always worked hard. Most people that get ahead work hard. When you're
I
in
don't
a
know of
union,
anybody that hasn't.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, unless you get inherited, but
Well, unless you have a government job, that's
sure,
right.
sure. But most people, unions protect the slowest worker.
Yeah.
So you always hear that, don't break the curve. Don't work any faster than Mike over there is working. He's working nice and slow. You go the same pace. In merit shops, you earn your way. It's merit. It's based upon merit. So if you work
What
hard,
an old-fashioned
I know,
concept, right?
I know. You work hard, you get ahead. You're only as good as your last job.
You know, the bad thing about this, I mean, I have a lot of friends that are union workers and all that, and they're good people, as are most employees. But how demeaning is it if you're working and you're told that, and yours was not the only case where that's happened, but then you've got somebody on your right of you is doing drugs. You got somebody on the left of you that's stealing from the company or whatever, and all you want to do is do your job, get a fair pay, get fair benefits and all that. And the system is skewed against that. Right. And I think it's really unfortunate. that the unions don't take more action, they don't police their own, because all they want to do is build membership, get more dues, and have more political clout, which they do. Hawaii is second only, I guess, to the state of New York in terms of union involvement and so forth. Well, look, there's a term that's been bouncing around for many years. It's got 3 letters, starts with P and ends with A, and it's called PLA. And the legislature, for many, many years, tried to pass a PLA bill, and they were unable to do it. But the governor, with a stroke of a pen, an executive order, made it a law for project labor agreements. Tell us about PLAs and what they do to construction and costs.
Project labor agreements came up originally from Washington, D.C.
Of course. Doesn't everything?
Yeah. And unfortunately, one of the strong proponents of it was our former senator who passed, Danny Noy. He was strongly for it because he believed, and he was given the bill of goods, that a project labor agreement, if you remember back in the 80s, there was the big strike where one union went on strike and every other union decided we cannot cross the picket, we have to honor the picket.
Right.
So the entire construction,
shut down the whole project.
The whole state shut down.
Yeah.
And it was designed so that that would never happen on any project. That's the intent of a PLA. PLA locks you out if you're a merit shop. Again, if you're the 2/3 majority, you're locked out from doing the job unless you pay union dues. And you mentioned union dues, so we'll go over that in a second. But what you have is, they say that it prevents a slowdown. Well, in Hilo, there was a case that just happened a year ago where it was a PLA project, and they shut it down anyway. So the PLAs don't work.
Didn't work.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
So your rail is a PLA project. Again, nobody cares because you know why? Who's going to pay the cost? Us, the taxpayer.
Sure.
When you do a union-only job, and this is, give you some factual numbers, is we call it the whole package. So $45 an hour on his journey worker pay for an electrician, $45 an hour is what you artificially increase the rate to for an hour, and $25 in fringe. That's called the Davis-Bacon Act. That goes back to the Civil Wars when the South and North got into the fight, and then the South needed work, so they were coming up and paying them lower wages. So two legislators, Mr. Davis and Mr. Bacon, decided to make it fair where both sides would pay the same wage. It's a government mandated wage. So who pays for that? Taxpayers, government people.
And that boosts the cost of your projects,
Correct.
right? Whether they're government or whether they're private.
Correct. So if you take $70 as your total package, 45 and 25, on any prevailing wage Davis-Bacon job, do you know that their merit shops take home $12 to $15 more per hour than the union side does?
No, that's not the information that's given out. That's
Right.
why you join the union, right?
We get paid more,
But
right?
you get paid more.
Correct. That's what they tell you.
And it's competition, and it's lower cost for the consumer and the taxpayer.
Correct. They don't want competition, so they give you the bill of goods. And it's sad that one of my friends passed from high school that, I believe in the union. The union's good. I said,
Yeah.
Fred, how long have you not been working? Oh, 6 years.
Yeah.
6 years you haven't worked.
Yeah.
And why haven't you worked? Or they're taking care of me. How are they taking care of you? Or they're taking care of me. I go, you still collecting unemployment? Oh, yeah, I was, because they put me on and they take me off so that I can collect unemployment. You know they still take dues out of your unemployment check?
Yeah.
So you get paid this regular when you're working. You get paid that much when you're unemployed. Yet they don't care. They still take their checks.
Well, the
still
heads
take
of the
their cut.
unions still get paid too. They
Yes.
they don't have to worry about unemployment benefits or anything
Yes,
else.
Correct. And what was really sad is, I hate to bring it up, but it's public information, is called an LM2, if you look it up. During that debacle with the painters
At the stadium.
At the stadium,
Yeah.
there was roughly 90% of that union was unemployed. Yet the leaders of the union still got themselves a pay raise and bought 3 new cars
Yeah.
during the time when you're not working. If I was in that union, I would be very upset that you're taking my dues, I'm not working, out of my unemployment check, and you're buying a new car,
Yeah.
and then you're getting a pay raise while we're not working. See, that's the thing people don't understand.
Well, they don't understand that, and they've got to ask more questions. Just like I tell people, you know, to hold politicians' feet to the fire. Same thing if you're in an organization, if you're working for a private company. That's your right and that's your responsibility. Well, look, we're running out of time, and I want you to tell people how they can get in touch with ABC and if there are any other events coming up or things that they should know
Okay.
about.
We have what do we have? We have our Excellence of Construction Awards coming up in November. The public is invited to that. Just contact our office. We are located 1375 Dillingham Boulevard. Our phone number is 845-4887. Our website is www.abchawaii.org. That's about all we have.
That's great. And so you welcome people, including
We welcome
unionized
unions too.
companies
Yes.
and all. How many members do you have now?
Currently, we had 79 when I started 5 years ago.
Mhm.
We're at 172 right now,
That's terrific.
and we've been the highest growing federation in the last 5 years. We are actually a model chapter for the federation.
And merit-based shops and contractors do exactly the same things as union, only they do them more competitively and lower
Yes,
cost.
correct. You can actually fire us. The other side, you have
Yeah.
to go through litigation. You know. So.
That's great. Well, Jonathan, it's been a pleasure, and we wish the best for ABC, and we hope that our viewers will take you up on that, contact the organization, particularly if they're in the construction industry or a contractor or anything like that. So we appreciate everything that you've done and appreciate the work of ABC. We wish you the best, and anything that we can do to provide more education in the future, just let us know.
Thank you.
So thanks again. Our guest has been Jonathan Young of Associated Builders and Contractors. I'm Sam Slom. Thank you for joining us. Have a better day. Aloha.